Say hello to oyster bunnies.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brand John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
John, I have an important question for you.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
No. Did you miss me over the weekend?
I missed you immensely over the weekend, Brett.
That is John Combest, Combest. He puts together the show every single morning. Actually, he puts it together. I'm just like the guy that just sits and I like a bump on a log.
I do. I put together the website, but not the show. You put together the show, Brad.
That's right. Every single day, Monday through Friday, we do the show. And it's called the Brad and John Show. We start the show up. By the way, you know, this morning, we're not going to do that. John, over the weekend, John, you know, once upon a time, I used to teach on the college level. I taught it at 270 Tech, and I taught it at Lindenwood. John said to me, Brad, I hear this radio station coming in from another city. And I said, John, that's called tropospheric ducting and sporadic E. And John says, Brad, instead of doing the top three on Monday morning, why don't you give her dissertation on tropospheric ducting and sporadic E wave propagation? And I said, John, what an excellent idea. But then I thought to myself, no, John, you know, we're going to turn off listeners by being super nerdy like that. So we're not.
You think so? Get out of here, Brad.
We're not going to do that.
And when you said ducting, suddenly Bart Inman called in and said, you know, I've been trying to train people to work on HVAC for years.
Right.
Maybe Brad will run my commercials for free.
Yeah, I wish I do. And I do because of the fact that he does a great job at promoting essentially students going to tech school instead of going on to college, which is
And you've only interrupted yourself one time in A block so far, Brad, at 7:04.
Yes, which is interesting. Okay, that is John Combest, Combest. You spell his name because of the fact you need to put it into your browser, in your on your desktop, on your smartphone, on your tablet, whatever you use to get into the internet. And you need to check out johncombest.com, a great site. It's like the Drudge Report for the state of Missouri, and it's got dozens of things on it. But what we do is we start the show off every morning with the top three, and we bring in this guy right here.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he counts them down, and we start with...
In third place,
Brad, thanks to your tropospheric duct tape, or whatever the heck that's called,
Ducting.
thanks to your work, our signal is so much stronger in West St. Louis County than it used to be. And when you're driving through West St. Louis County, particularly that Wildwood area off 109, you'll see a lot of people that have salt licks or deer licks. Are you familiar with those, Brad?
I am, and I have a couple friends that have those. It's interesting, and that's, if you know the history of St. Charles, that's what the street Boone's Lick is all about.
I did not know that, Brad.
Yes,
Really?
yes, Boone's Lick. It's not Boone's Slick, it's Boone's Lick Road, because supposedly Daniel Boone had several deer licks on that area.
Well, who knew? Well, I guess Brad Hildebrand knew. So I won't pull a Brad Hildebrand and interrupt myself. But the point is, Brad, if you know folks who have those in West St. Louis County or even St. Charles County now, but particularly in St. Louis County, you may want to smarten them up to a piece that I have up today from MissouriNet, a real-life practical piece of information to share with your neighbors. The Missouri Department of Conservation is taking measures to stop the spread of chronic wasting disease. And they added several new counties to their CWD list. And the point of it, Brad, is that St. Louis County didn't used to be on the CWD list. You could pretty much just go out there and do whatever you want to and have your deer licks and nobody would worry. But now, no deer licks allowed in St. Louis County. And anyone caught with those, Brad, could face a fine up to $250. So there's a lot of folks out here in West St. Louis County that got the deer licks in their backyard. $250 fine from the Missouri Department of Conservation, Brad. And the idea, as I looked into this morning, is that if you have a deer lick, you have anywhere the deer are going to congregate, they're more likely to spread their chronic wasting disease with each other than if you did not have those deer. So the Department of Conservation says, don't do things to bring a whole bunch of deer together in your backyard and have them, you know, around each other's bodily fluids that might spread CWD.
Is this guy like a doctor, the guy who's saying this, or is this like some dude from the Department of Conservation?
Well, it's a guy. His name is Jason Isabel, and he's the CERVID program supervisor. Now, Brad, I deem myself a cervix program supervisor, but that's an entirely different context.
What is he related to Dr. Fauci, where you can't have, in other words, Dr. Fauci, you didn't want people to congregate. This guy doesn't want deer to congregate. Is that what this is all about?
Yeah, and they have to keep 6 feet apart, and they have to wear masks. And he calls it the cervix in place approach, Brad. Excuse me, cervid in place approach, Brad.
John, out in the wild, don't deer get together? What I kept thinking was, I guess if you're going deer hunting, I guess those deer are around a lot. I don't, to be fair though, Brad, I don't know enough about deer behavior to know maybe when they're out in the wild, they're not around each other enough to spread CWD. I understand the idea of if you had a salt lick in a neighborhood and you had various packs of deer or whatever coming through, they'd be more likely to encounter each other's bodily fluids or deposits, etc., than they would if you were just out in the wild. Man, I don't know. This story to me is I'm scratching my head because I'm thinking to myself, I have seen in my travels, especially on Highway 94 and hitting like 19 deer through the various years and ending up in the hospital twice over that. But I have seen like, what do you call it? They talk about flocks of birds, a gaggle of geese. What do you call it?
Yeah, I guess let's call them a flock of deer. I don't know if that's the right term.
I've seen several times when I've seen, 8, 10 of them together, and they weren't going after anybody's salt lick or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah, I do know exactly what you're saying. So I don't know. I do know that when I looked up the list, Brad, and every county in our listening area is on the CWD list. So if you're in Franklin, Warren, St. Charles County, St. Louis County, you're not allowed to have those salt licks out.
How about St. Louis City?
I think you can. Yeah. And then actually what it does is it helps fortify the antlers of the carjackers.
I'm just going to say.
You know what, Brad? You just mentioned St. Louis City. What a perfect lead in the story number 2. You know what it is.
No, hold on a minute. I think you're going to take one of my top 3. Okay, let's move on.
I'm going to take 2 out of your top 3 today, Brad. 2 of them are going to be in my top 3.
Up a notch to number 2.
Speaking of St. Louis City, Brad, I went to the St. Louis City SC, St. Louis City Soccer Club website this morning for a little firsthand journalism research. There used to be a guy named Camille Winter. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but I was following his idea of doing some firsthand investigative journalism. And you can purchase some uplifting materials. You can purchase a girl's top that has pride. It's got like a rainbow motif on it. Only $69.99 to get a St. Louis City Pride shirt. But what's not on there is anything that says Make America Great Again. Maybe Make America Gay Again, but not Make America Great Again. And as you know, Brad, because you are a fan of local radio, on Friday, Mark Cox had a gentleman named Michael Whitesell on the show. He's a season ticket holder for St. Louis City Soccer Club, and he was kicked out of a soccer game for wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Now, Brad, I know that you had this on your top 3, but do you want to discuss it now, or would you rather discuss it during Brad's top 3?
John, and the reason I put this, when I work on this, especially over the weekend, I keep my little notes in my phone of what I'm going to talk about, the top 3. And this was not going to be in the top 3 initially until it made national news. Do you know about this, John? This is now.
Yeah, I've seen a few national headlines.
This is a national news story, and it doesn't bode well for the city of St. Louis. And it doesn't bode well for. And the example you just gave was, I think. I didn't hear the interview with Mark Cox, but I believe he pointed this out, that there's all sorts of people wearing political statement shirts like the gay stuff and stuff like that. And, that's okay, but you can't wear a hat which is talking about our president of the United States. You know what I'm saying? It's to the point where you start.
I get exactly what you mean. And now I could have missed one this morning, Brad, but to no one's surprise, although this became a national issue, and you pointed out that national conservative outlets have covered it, Outkick the coverage. Outkick had it up over the weekend. It's amazing that I haven't seen any coverage from St. Louis Public Radio or the St. Louis Post-Dispatch yet. I mean, that's a shocker, isn't it, Brad? Why isn't local television news? Could you, to quote Brad Hildebrand, let's do the Tony Colombo flip test. Could you imagine if someone with a Joe Biden or Kamala Harris shirt got kicked out?
Well,
could you imagine, Brad?
Oh, no, not take it one step further. If someone with a gay pride shirt got kicked out, I mean, that would
absolutely, yeah.
NPR would, matter of fact, the folks at St. Louis Public Radio would essentially dedicate a day to that. They would just stop all the national programming and go, we're going to talk all day long about the person with the gay pride shirt that got kicked out of the St. Louis. See, there's so many things wrong with the soccer thing. First off, now the team has become an embarrassment because they lose almost every single game. And not only that, I've said this before, John, you're a good guy, a corporate guy. You understand branding and marketing and things like that. Why would you call it St. Louis City? And to the point, doesn't that sort of make it to the point where it's like, hey, you people in St. Louis County and you people in the collar counties of Jefferson, St. Charles, and you Metro East counties over there in Monroe and St. Clair and Madison, we don't care about you. This is the St. Louis City team. You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, then that's not where it came from. So a lot of teams in the Premier League, for example, call themselves Manchester City. So they wouldn't call themselves Manchester. They would call themselves Manchester City. So it's St. Louis attempting to be more European or attempting to be more cosmopolitan. It has nothing to do with limiting it. Now, you've made this point several times on the air, and I've made this point several times on the air, Brad. But I know sometimes people could be listening to us for the first time. So the team deciding to call itself St. Louis City is not saying we're only here for this metropolitan area. It's them trying to be more European.
And interesting story, because that's one of my top three, being more European this morning. And you probably don't even know about that, do you?
I have no idea, Brad. But you know what? I have a feeling that my story number one is going to be in your top three. And if not, I bet you'll call it on the fly with an emphasis on the word call.
Okay, here we go.
The number one.
Sneak dissing. And that ain't how we play. Mess with mine. Get you drama like a DJ. Now tell me I ain't real. This AR that I'm holding got a gangster grill. Brad, is there anyone in your life or in your phone who's made an AR-15 popular or famous?
Anybody who's made one popular and famous?
Yeah, anybody who's, closely associated with an AR-15.
I know several people that have built an AR-15 from parts, but I don't know about anybody who's made one famous.
Know several people who've built a computer going to some old-timey computer store, too. Well, I'll just spoil the headline then, Brad. From the folks at TMZ, viral St. Louis couple says, my AR-15 is back home, baby. Gun returned years later after wild BLM protest moment. The St. Louis, Missouri couple, who went viral for pointing guns at Black Lives Matter protesters, from their lawn in 2020, are back in ownership of their semi-automatic rifle. Check it out. Mark McCloskey posted on X Friday, touting the alleged development by sharing a video of himself grabbing his AR-15 from a box at the local police department.
Really?
Brad, TMZ goes on to describe the fact that, Kim Gardner said that he had used his weapon in an unlawful use, in an unlawful way, an unlawful use of weapon. That was from Kim Gardner. So finally, Brad, Mark McCloskey is able, after what he says are 3 lawsuits, 2 trips to the Court of Appeals, and 1,847 days, I got my AR-15 back. Brad, to quote Peaches and Herb, he's reunited and it feels so good.
John, you're bringing back. You're the king of all these old song lyrics. Okay, Mark. Now, what about his wife's gun, the little revolver, or not the little semi-automatic she had? What's the story on that? Any news?
No story on that. But they did go to Chemo's and they taped it in the back of a bathroom stall so that in case Mark is in any trouble in that meeting that he's got, later on tonight, he can just excuse himself, go to the bathroom, and pull it out at Chemo's.
I thought Chemo's was gone.
Yeah, it is, Brad. That's the joke.
Oh, okay. Because
No, I don't know what happened to Patty's gun. Hopefully she'll be dangling it around and spinning it on her finger and doing some tricks with it again.
this story is this is how Mark McCloskey came to fame. Up until this point, did you even know he existed? Did you know he?
I did not know there's a gentleman named Chuck McCloskey who had been involved in a lot of Republican campaigns, and I don't know if he's related to Mark, but no, I didn't know who Mark was. And I was Mark's neighbor, sorta, across Union Boulevard for many years, Brad. Of course, I lived across the street. He was in a gated community. I was not.
So you lived in the Central West End?
Yeah, I lived there for 8 years. We talked about this many times on the show.
I don't remember talking about this.
Yeah, we did. I lived at Lindell and Union for 8 years.
Really? What did you do there?
What did I do there? Well, I ate, I slept, I worked.
Did you enjoy living in the city like that?
Yeah, right after I got out of college, I lived in that building, a beautiful building in the Central West End. Yeah, and then eventually, Brad, my car got broken into, and then it was time to move to a little safer area.
Yeah, I hear that. Okay, you want to talk about? I tell you what. I'm going to redo my top three, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the MAGA hat guy. Let's just talk about in the C block, because that needs a little bit more discussion, because I don't understand that. Do you get that at all, John?
Yeah, I get the fact that you're in an urban area and some people are easily offended, and that a MAGA guy. So I think if your city, your approach is this: a MAGA guy will make a video of it and complain, and right-wing radio will have them on, and they'll say, "Oh, can you believe they kicked us out for a MAGA hat?" But the downside, I think, is limited for them. If you kicked out somebody for wearing a pride shirt or something like that, they'd be like, "Oh my God, how are you discriminating civil rights?"
Well, and
then it would be a huge lawsuit thing.
Okay,
but what are right-wingers going to do, Brad? I'm not going to stop going to St. Louis City games because I never went, and I'm not going to stop going to St. Louis City because I don't go.
Okay, let's pick this up in C block, because this dovetails nicely into the Sydney Sweeney story as well too.
Oh yes, let's talk about her, Brad.
Right. Let's talk about her. Let's talk about me. Okay, we have to take a break, and we will be back with my top three, which I'm going to have to redo a little bit. Hold on a minute. No, I've got a problem with the computer here. Do this. Now it works. Okay.